Okay. All right, guys, how to fix this. Everything you guys can start doing at home. I'm going to give you guys the textbook most powerful things you can do. All right. And that's actually so simple. These are really easy things. Like, they're simple things you can implement today, starting at home. First thing I'm going to recommend you guys do is we need to, and I'm so epigenetics. It's very, very common if you're pregnant, or if the sperm came from a man that had insulin resistance, or if the egg came as you're being grown in the mother's in utero. If she's insulin resistant, then the baby is, I forget the amount of times, but many times more likely to have metabolic challenges very young in life. Now, again, it's a reversible. Even though your genes may predispose you, you got to cause it still. It has to be caused still. Even if the genetic markers are there for it to happen faster. As long as you don't cause it, it won't happen. All right. So, and even if it is genetic, you can still undo it, right? If the predisposition is there, you can still undo it. So you're in great hands. All right. That Lily I'm talking to? Yeah, Lily. So Lily, you're good to go. Oh, yeah, Lily Ivy. Sorry. Okay. What you're going to do now, the first thing you're going to start doing at home is you're going to begin to reduce your carb and sugar intake. And why we're going to do that is because we have to control the glucose. As you guys learned over and over again, all right? Type 1 diabetics, yes, you're going to do all the same things. Now, type 1, really briefly. Is there a lot of type 1s here? It's only one type 1 that I'll just message me afterwards and I can just clarify some stuff. I want to move into the solutions, but if there's a lot of type 1s, then I'll actually explain some stuff for you. But everything still applies to you to help control your glucose and insulin and to digress the damage on your cells. Type 1 diabetics, the cause is different, but it's the same thing to fix it in terms of controlling glucose and insulin, because type 1 diabetics have heart attacks. Type 1 diabetics get blood pressure and kidney disease and CKD and fatty liver disease. They get belly fat. They go down the exact same route of metabolic dysfunction as glucose becomes more unstable, causing glycation damage, and as they inject more and more insulin. Doesn't matter if you're injecting insulin or if insulin's coming from your pancreas. Too much insulin is going to create insulin damage and glucose damage. You see? It's the same thing for type 1 and type 2. All right? No more cereal. No more cereal. Good question. All right. Now, carbs and sugars, all right, going back to this. Carbs and sugars are really important to control because carbs and sugars, as you guys learned in the beginning of my live, my really detailed breakdown of how this all gets triggered, is one of the biggest triggers of insulin resistance. It propagates it, right? So what we want to do is remove those two things because they are metabolized rapidly and they flood your bloodstream with glucose, right? So carbs, especially processed carbs, pastas and rice and cereal, all that stuff, and processed ingredients, all right? They metabolize rapidly and they spike your glucose many, many, many times greater than we want it to go, right? And so we need to calm that down. Now, by removing it, what's going to happen is instead of spiking your glucose super high, you're going to reduce that glucose spike, which means you're going to be reducing the insulin. Remember, insulin is always going to go to the level of glucose. If you spike your glucose, your pancreas has to release a lot of insulin. So every time you're eating, every meal, breakfast, lunch, dinner, if you keep spiking your glucose 3, 4, 5 times a day, you're going to have 3, 4, 5 times of insulin spiking too. It's going to overload your blood with Bones, welcome back to my life. You're going to be overloading your blood with cereal is going to do this for you. All right. Now, your glucose will be overloaded with so much glucose and so much insulin that you're going to be progressing these two pillars. We have to calm that down. So by removing the carbs, removing the sugar, you're going to calm down the glucose spikes every day, and that's going to calm down the insulin. And that means over time, less and less and less glucose is flooding into your system. So you're going to actually bring down the total glucose level, and you're going to bring down the total insulin level by just keeping it calm. Don't keep overloading. You have a glucose and insulin overload problem. So you have to stop overloading it, and over time it will come down, right? Now, the next thing I want you guys to do is prioritize. So if you're thinking to yourself, what could I eat then? I'm used to having cereals. I have cereal every day for breakfast. I like having bread every day for breakfast. I like to have pasta every day for lunch. I like to have pizza every day for dinner. I don't know, whatever you're eating. But like whatever you're eating, you might be thinking to yourself, well, carbs are a lot of my food. Naturally, that's not our fault, right? The food companies have made our food industry pretty much like all carbs and sugars. There's only 30% of our food comes from Mother Nature. The rest of it is processed, ultra processed carbs, sugars, and 10,000 different chemical ingredients added into the food that are not meant to go inside of your body, not meant to be in there. Think about our ancestors. Our ancestors were not eating Pop-Tarts. They didn't have type 2. Type 2 diabetes is new. This is new. Alzheimer's is new. PCOS or PMOS is new. A lot of these conditions are new. All right. If you go back 100 years ago, which is not that long, your great grandparents, only 5% of the population had chronic disease, and they were all 90 years old when they had it. All right, now we have Alzheimer's and 30 years old. They're 30, they have Alzheimer's. They're 25, they're having heart attacks. Right? We have these conditions. It's now 50% of the population. 98% of people are metabolically sick to one extent or another. 98%. All right, and then we have over 50%, including over 50% of kids, already have conditions coming from this. We are a very sick species. We're the sickest species on the world. There's no other animal with type 2 diabetes. You don't look into your backyard and see squirrels that are diabetic. You don't see raccoons that have fatty liver. You don't see birds with obesity falling from the sky all over the road because they can't fly anymore. It's just us, because we have done what no other animal is doing. And we're eating 10,000 different chemical ingredients, and 70% of the time is carbs and sugars. We have very low amounts of Mother Nature. All the other animals are they're eating things that grow on trees, things that grow in soils. They're eating other animals and animal byproducts. They're eating Mother Nature, which is supposed to be in there, and having healthy metabolism. We have gone a whole different direction, and it's not your fault. We've created an industry, the food industry, that unfortunately is prioritizing profits over health. Right? And so we have the situation in which health is tanking as food industry profits are skyrocketing. Right? So we have to start fixing that. Minimize carbs and sugars. And you're going to start to, where was I going with this? Oh yeah, prioritize whole foods. All right. Now whole foods, a lot of people go in my chat, I see it all the time, and they're like, what do I eat though? What do I buy? When I go to the store, Dana, I've been taught that fruit are bad though. Fruit apparently it has sugar. Sugar spikes your glucose. Isn't that bad for me? So I can't have any fruit. But I've also been told not to have any fat, to have fat-free everything, but there's fat in everything. What do I buy? You guys are being told a lot of stuff that makes it really hard to know what to shop for and what to prioritize. And what I want to walk you back into, like, just kind of going back to the basics, all right? You are an animal and you evolved. Our species evolved eating. We're an omnivorous species. We eat plants, we eat meat. All right. So number one, get both in there. We're an omnivorous species. That's how we evolved. Our body functions best that way. Some individuals, a very select few, can function normally with that being cut out, but you want both. The vast majority can't. All right. And then we also have things like healthy fat, fruit, right? Vegetables. Those are all core parts of our intake, including fruit. A lot of people are afraid of the sugar in fruit, but the sugar in fruit is a different molecular structure than processed food. Processed food is a completely different molecular structure of sugar. It's not the same. All right. But the sugar that exists in Mother Nature, the sugar that Mother Nature is putting in vegetables, in fruit, is different. And the body knows how to handle it. The body responds very different to that molecular structure. And especially when it's whole food, the whole fruit actually has polyphenols and other ingredients that bind to the sugar and protect you from the sugar. That's why in clinical studies on type 2 diabetics who have extreme insulin resistance, even they are healthier. If you take two tightly controlled groups of diabetics and one gets fruit every day, you can't heal if you're not giving it the building blocks to do it. So if you're going to go to the gym, for example, and try to gain muscle, but you're not eating protein, you're not going to gain muscle. You can work out every single day. Your body's going to be like, I can't gain muscle. You're not giving me any protein. If you're trying to fix your tissues and heal your tissues and you aren't eating nutrients, tissues are not going to heal properly. So again, that nutrient profile is really important. All right. Whole foods will do that for you. Okay, next, I want you to begin grouping your foods into main meals. You can still have everything you want to have, right? So you have everything you want, but don't be sprinkling it throughout the day, because we've been taught to do that. And when we do it that way, this is what happens, all right? A lot of people are taught to eat like this, and we're going to change it. So you've been taught, here's your day, and you're having breakfast, then you have maybe a mid-morning coffee. Every time you eat, you have a glucose response, right? Maybe you have a snack after breakfast, or maybe you had a coffee with milk and cream and sugar in it, so it was another eating event, right? And then you have maybe lunch, maybe an afternoon snack again, or an afternoon coffee all over again with more stuff in it. And then maybe you even had, dinner and then a nighttime snack. Look at all the different eating events you had. You had all these eating events all day long. That's a lot of glucose spikes. And then, what did I teach you? Whenever you have a glucose event, all right, hypothyroidism, yes, right on the board. I know, so you can't really see it right now, but I have actually videos on that. I have really detailed whiteboard videos on hypothyroidism. Go to my Instagram or my Facebook and you'll see them on there. All right, they're very detailed, and I go through, there's about 4 or 5 different channels through which insulin resistance is a major, one of the biggest drivers of hypothyroidism. And you fix the insulin resistance, hypothyroidism goes away. If you removed your thyroid by now, or even half of it's gone, you did a partial removal, you might need medication, obviously, forever. Especially if it's completely gone, you will always need some level of medication to replace the organ. But that medication will be very, very low and very controlled because you fixed the insulin resistance, so it's nice and healthy again. If you have your thyroid still intact, it's not been removed, then you can come off the medication altogether. We'll look at my testimonials, for example. All my clients come off the medication unless you are, again, in the stage where you have removed the organ and you need support forever. But you'll be able to control it much easier. Okay, those are the glucose spikes, all right? So Metabolic Boss on Facebook and Instagram, everywhere is Metabolic Boss. All right, now insulin is gonna get released. Whenever there's a glucose event, there's an insulin event. Remember, now insulin takes 4 hours to come back down, depending on what you ate, even a little bit longer sometimes. If insulin needs 4 hours to come back down, but you're eating and snacking every few hours, you are not giving insulin enough time to get out of the blood before more gets released. So you have insulin on top of insulin on top of, you have all this insulin is compounding. Look what happens, all right? Insulin's gonna get released. It wants to come down. It starts to come down, but then you only ate 2 hours later, it went up again. It tries to come down and again, and insulin just starts climbing. And by the end of the day, it's way up here. That's not what we want. Instead, what you're gonna do is you're just gonna make a small little tweak to how you're structuring your meals, and that's gonna make a big difference. Look what's gonna happen here, all right? You're gonna have your meals, and you're gonna put them into main meals, and you're gonna space them apart 4 hours, all right? You're gonna have breakfast, you're gonna hold. Lunch, hold. Dinner, done. Now, some people need 2 meals a day. Some need 3, some need 4. That has to be very specific to you, all right? So for me, for example, I can't do 2 meals. I lose muscle because it depends on like how many, also if you're trying to build muscle and you're only having 2 muscle protein synthesis events per day, you're not going to really gain the muscle that you want, unless you don't want that much muscle. It depends on what your goal is. But like that matters, right? Your total caloric intake matters. Not everybody can do it in 2 meals. I can't. I need over 2,000 a day, and I struggle to do 1,000 in each meal. I get really full and very uncomfortable, right? So that matters. Your protein intake. I do 150 to 180 grams of protein per day to support my lifting. I can't do that. I get so sick doing that in 2 meals. I need a third, right? So there's so many reasons, even what you're dealing with health-wise. My clients and I define for them what that structure looks like, and I'll change it as they heal and their body can handle more things. I can change that, right? So it depends on where you are and where you're starting, and all the factors around what's going on. Even your hormonal dysregulation, right, will also impact, like your sex hormones. If they're dysregulated, it's going to impact what you should be doing. So this is not like when you hear someone saying only eat like whatever types of meals, like once or twice or 3 times. No. It's very dependent on the person. And if you're one of my clients, a lot of my clients are watching me, you don't got to do the math. I'll do that for you. Message me if we haven't talked about it yet. Message me and I'll do that with you. So I'll make it super easy. I'll do that.